Jonny Haltom and the Data Center, a short story by Dan McDowell. Jonny Haltom sat in his recliner, his legs propped up and healing after the surgery. The first weekend discharged from the hospital was to be spent having lots of rest, which felt nearly impossible for him. A couple of hours of TV, some crossword puzzles, maybe a book, some trade papers. Those would all tidy him over for a little while. But it would be a challenge to remain so sedentary, being the active fellow he was. His wife, Lisa, wasn't particularly in tune with giving him the full-on nurse mode treatment either. Not because it wasn't in her nature, but because Jonny would start talking about one conspiracy theory after another, and after 38 years, it just annoyed the daylights out of her. But the truth was, she enabled it, buying the supermarket tabloids, letting him purchase books that came from the alternate fringes of science and the New Age, and television sources that kept Jonny's bubble insulated with truths she mostly considered fabrications of reality. It kept life more interesting for Jonny, looking at it differently, and she'd rather have a wacky, active husband than a depressed, lazy one, when he didn't have something like that to keep him entertained. Jonny had repaired televisions, monitors, and screens for years, before everything switched over to modern flat screens, touch screens, and whatever else they were coming up with these days. He didn't much care for any of that, preferring the look and feel of the analog. As such, in their basement, they had dozens and dozens of CRT screens, tube televisions, and vintage monitors of all variations. He'd kept most of them running or operational until his accident the previous year, and had since slowed down, not spending much time in the basement. The truth was, the accident had changed him. And as he changed, so did the world around him. Just across the street, a row of wonderful historical houses had been knocked down, removed, and fenced up for a new construction project that he watched go up and change over a period of several months. He and Lisa often spoke of how fortunate they were not to have been bought out by the massive corporation that was going to be building just adjacent to where they lived. Though he was saddened by the loss of the homes, he remained equally curious about what was being done with the land. Lots of hard hats, security, and authorized personnel only signs. The story was that the place would be a new data center facility. All these technology companies in the cloud were taking over the world, after all. It only made sense that it would continue. Jonny, having an affectation for the alternate twist, had found his way into video blogging, a bit uncommon for a guy in his 60s, which made him a unique voice with a growing following. His fresh and unconventional perspective left many interested parties watching, liking, and beyond. It annoyed Lisa that Jonny was connected in this way, but it shut him up around the house and allowed her to focus more on her own creative and artistic interests, which made them the bulk of their expendable income, while Jonny's retirement pension took care of the rest. Jonny drifted off to sleep one afternoon after seeing a row of large trucks going into the gate with strangely shaped pieces in the back. The edges weren't squared off, but rounded. And for a data center, this seemed strange to Jonny, his medication a little strong to stay with it as much as he'd like to. After a couple of hours, he awoke and saw there were more and more of the same trucks coming in with the same kinds of pieces. He called out to Lisa.
Honey, have you been watching these trucks across the way?
Not really. Why?
Because it seems like there's something else going on beyond a data center. Those constructions aren't that interesting. I've done enough research to know that.
You research it,
She said, doing quotation marks with her fingers.
and then you put a spin on it that just makes the mundane seem more interesting, Jonny. There's nothing to it. We want there to be, but there's not.
You said, we? Are you softening up to your old man? You got your tinfoil hat ready yet?
I suppose I can humor this particular theory because, yes, I saw the trucks too, and they've been going in by the hundreds.
We can't see anything over the big hill anymore, can we?
Yeah, you're right.
I never expected them to build up. That land wasn't a floodplain. Trucking in mountains and mountains of all that dirt to pack it down, and then what? Dig back into it.
Something like that.
She said.
I used to see that material more out in Florida. They used it on those dome houses. Was more flexible, said it held up better in hurricane weather. I don't know,
He said.
So what's a data center going to do with that?
She asked.
What's your theory?
Adjusting his legs, he sighed.
I don't know, Lisa. And that bothers me. I can't think clear enough with the pain meds, and it bothers me.
I'm sorry, Johnny. Only a few more days, and we'll start to wean you off and start the rehab.
The waiting is driving me crazy,
he said.
I can't stand sitting so still when I have so much I want to do.
And that's why you're in the condition you are now, honey. The Energizer Bunny can't go forever. You have to slow down and enjoy retirement. Maybe we should think about going back to Florida. Texas is changing so fast.
I agree. But that's such a big move. And the grandkids?
Honey, we haven't seen them in a year. They can come visit us when they want to. Plenty of great family activities in the area.
Maybe so.
In the recliner chair arm, Johnny had held onto the piece of mail he didn't want to show Lisa for a few months. The letter, the offer from the mega corporation, proposing to buy them out for a cool $1 million. He hadn't told her he was already working with them, and he knew if she found out, she'd be furious that he withheld that information or made that decision to remain without consulting her. Late that night after she'd gone to bed, he wheeled himself out to his truck and pulled out his newly issued company ID. Approaching the entry gate, he flashed his badge and went in around the corner. Entering a sort of bunker-styled entry bay, he parked the truck and walked through a large room that could best be described as a hangar. He was directed to a station where a facilitator applied a cool, viscous green gel to his temples and wrists, stating it was a conductive interface for a Mulvoidian encounter. Naturally, as one might expect, he was approached by the space's facilitators and supervisors. They shook hands and locked eyes with each other for the agreed-upon 6 seconds, and then the floor beneath bottomed out to take them into the lower bay, where thousands of Mulvoidians wandered through a sort of subterranean shopping mall. It was Johnny's sort of perfect, themed and styled, after the 1980s, music and all. As he looked up at the arched ceilings and many vents piping in the alternative air source and haloglobin were coming through, the idealized Mulvoidian paradise was born right here in his own front yard, more or less. The people were kind but timid, green-tinged and slimy, but shape-shifting into humanoid forms as needed, and ultimately, some of the hardest workers he'd ever seen. They reassured him that society had peaked in 1989 and then began to crumble away as free thinking became muddied up with information overload, that the brains of mankind were short-circuiting and becoming dumber and dumber. It was a burden to carry, but they were progressively implementing new ways to assimilate to the culture and to preserve the legacy, and to ultimately begin to cohabit and breed with the people of Earth. Most of these experiments were housed within the data center project, the little dome houses all built inside the space side by side with one another, the artificial grass turf and picket fences to go along with it. Johnny felt so privileged to be welcomed into the fold, and perhaps the way that he was welcomed wasn't a coincidence. He'd been a contractor for the federal government for years, even spending a majority of TV and appliance convention work trips at Area 51, where he reverse-engineered many technologies with the help and partnership of the Mulvoidian ambassadors. They always helped him come up with the right stories to shield his wife and his kids from the knowledge, the heavy burden that was knowing that Earth was the only inhabited planet, that Mulvoid was in reaching distance with the right spacecraft and beyond. And so, the visit into the biodome was what he called science fiction nouveau, a sort of place that allowed tinfoil hats, space cadets, and aliens to all convene together in harmony, pumping out the political propaganda, influence, and emerging technologies of the modern world, because no one else was anymore. It thrilled Johnny to be involved. He wanted to bring Lisa into the fold, and as he dialogued with the Mulvoidians of their retirement in the dome houses, finally buckling on the offer to sell their place and retire in the biodome just across the street, he was brought in front of a council to make his case. The Mulvoidian ambassador ran the meeting like a city council operation.
Mr. Haltom, after some time and deliberation, the council has approved the motion for you and Lisa to move in. You will have to provide full disclosure to her prior to her entry in the facility, though. Your biodome accommodations will mirror that of the others you cohabit with. Your communication with the outside world will cease entirely. Are you okay with the above conditions?
I am, sir,
He said.
and might I add, I'm gratefully indebted to you for your supplies and technologies in giving me my new knees.
For you, Mr. Haltom, we are indebted as well, helping us to envision this special place, to channel the brightest and the best of the Earth in these unprecedented times.
So, when can we move in?
Next week, I have a doctor here who will fast-track your healing process with a special tool we cannot allow in the hospitals yet.
Very good.
Jonny said, following the Mulvoidian doctor into a corridor space at the Mulvoidian Medical Center.
Welcome, Mr. Haltom. This won't hurt a bit. Allow me a moment.
As the doctor made adjustments, Johnny's knee healed nearly instantaneously.
Wow. Too good to be true.
Seeing and feeling is believing, Mr. Haltom.
The Mulvoidian said. They walked out of the clinic and grabbed corn dogs and some popcorn.
The peak of civilization, alien technologies, and the 1980s. It just doesn't get any better,
Jonny said. The Mulvoidian doctor raised her glass of purple beet juice and clanked it with Johnny's Coca-Cola.
Totally immersive.
What?
This data center is totally immersive. The perfect fusion of technology and future,
The doctor said, removing the VR headset from Johnny's head.
Thank you for testing the Mulvoidian program with us.
She said.
I don't understand.
You don't have to, Jonny. We do, and that's what matters.
As he looked around the large hangar bay, everything had shifted back to the blank space he'd seen before. A row of many others wearing headsets, much like he'd worn. A server farm lined up and down the long corridor.
Your work here is finished, Mr. Haltom. Your knee is fully repaired.
The doctor said.
And we've mapped your brain onto the cloud. It's a beautiful, over-idealized landscape and the perfect place for a new generation of subscribers to colonize.
He paused.
There might be some trace residue left from the neurogel interface. Don't worry, it's non-toxic and wears off quickly.
Colonize?
On the cloud, of course.
The doctor said, chuckling nervously.
I can't handle this,
Jonny said.
You went into my mind and stole my imagination away. Mapped it into a computerized paradise? And now you're going to sell it behind a paywall? I thought we had a deal. Lisa and I were moving here.
Of course you're moving here, Jonny.
The doctor said, smiling.
You were always living with your head in the clouds before, in partnership with the people of Mulvoid, and now we're making that beautiful dream a reality for you, and for many others.
Jonny walked out of the facility, his knee in perfect condition, his brain perfectly clear and refreshed, but his emotions were all over the place. The Mulvoid biodome had been so perfect, the idealized utopia he'd always imagined. As he returned home, Lisa was waiting at the door, clearly agitated.
Where have you been?
I had some work to do.
Work? You were under strict orders not to leave, Jonny. You're not supposed to be on your feet.
I'm cured, Lisa. I had a specialized post-op that fast-tracked my surgery. Look at the mobility in my knees.
Jonny leapt up and down several times without flinching.
I feel like a brand new man.
Lisa looked at his sleeve, clearly shocked by his rapid transformation and recovery.
Wait, what is that green slime on your arm?
Jonny smiled, realizing he wasn't as dumb as the rest. He wouldn't be moving to the cloud after all. They had a dome house and a biodome waiting for them just across the street.
I think it's time we talk about that move,
He said, putting his arm around Lisa's shoulder.
Okay, let's dive into a really fascinating story we received. It starts kind of quiet, Texas suburb, guy recovering from knee surgery.
Yeah, Jonny Haltom, and he's an analog tech enthusiast, which is kind of key later on. Loves his old CRT screens.
Right, the opposite of the cloud, really.
Yeah.
But the real story kicks off with this massive construction project happening right across his street.
Exactly. The official word is, it's just a data center facility. Pretty standard these days. But Jonny, he runs a video blog, he's observant.
And he sees things that just don't add up. Like, why are they trucking in so much dirt? Just mountains of it, raising the ground level.
And the materials, not standard steel frames and concrete. They're using these weird, custom curved, almost dome-like pieces.
Like data center. It doesn't track. Seems way too expensive, too secretive for just servers.
Well, the secrecy.
Right.
That's where it gets personal. Turns out, Jonny wasn't just some curious neighbor filming it for his blog. No, he was already, secretly involved with the megacorp building the place. They'd offered him a cool $1 million to buy his house.
$1 million. Wow. And he hadn't told his wife, Lisa.
Not a word. Kept it completely quiet for months. So his whole blog thing about the mystery kind of performance,
Okay, so he's already in deep. What happens next?
He gets this new company ID card, and one night he decides to let himself in. Unauthorized visit.
Right into the lion's den. What did he find?
A very secure sort of bunker-style entrance. And there's someone there waiting, a facilitator. They prep him for what they call a Mulvoidian encounter.
Mulvoidian, okay. How do they prep him?
With this cool, thick green gel. A conductive interface, they called it, applied to his temples, his wrists. Clearly some kind of tech interface.
Definitely sounds like it. So the gel connects him to what?
It drops him right into this massive underground environment, like a huge subterranean shopping mall. But it's all themed like the 1980s. Perfectly preserved.
The 80s. Why the 80s?
According to the story, these beings, the Mulvoidians, described as kind of green-tinged, slimy, they believe 1989 was, like the absolute peak of human civilization, before information overload messed everything up.
Huh? Digital preservationists stuck in the past. So they built an 80s paradise underground.
Essentially. And they wanted to cohabit and breed this legacy digitally. Preserve it.
Wild. Was Jonny freaking out? Green, slimy beings underground 80s mall.
Apparently not entirely. See, he knew about them. He'd worked with Mulvoidians before, back when he was a federal contractor.
Wait, where?
Area 51, supposedly. Reverse engineering tech. And get this, they supposedly had the tech that helped fix his new knees from his recent surgery.
Okay, the connections are getting weirder. So they know him. What's the proposition?
They want him and Lisa to move into one of these perfect custom biodome homes within the facility. Live the 80s dream.
Like there's a catch, right? There's always a catch.
Oh, yeah. Big one. Total isolation. They'd have to completely cut off all contact with the outside world forever. Trade reality for this curated utopia.
And Jonny. He agrees.
He agrees. The promise of a perfect life, plus a Mulvoidian doctor steps in, uses the special tool, and instantly heals his knee. No pain, perfect recovery.
Wow. Instant healing. So he's ready for his 80s biodome life.
And that's when it all falls apart. The doctor reaches up and pulls a bulky headset off Jonny's head.
No way. It was all
a simulation, the whole thing. The underground mall, the green Mulvoidians, the 80s theme, even the instant knee repair. Just a totally immersive test run.
So the green gel, the conductive interface.
It was mapping his brain, recording his reactions, his desires. The entire Mulvoidian encounter was just data harvesting.
Harvesting his imagination.
Yeah.
So the data center wasn't storing normal data.
It was storing Jonny. Or, well, his ideal world. They mapped his personal utopia, that 80s Mulvoid biodome, onto the cloud.
To sell it.
Exactly. As a beautiful, over-idealized landscape, a ready-made digital world for paying subscribers to move into, to colonize. They didn't just buy his land, they digitized and productized his fantasy.
That is deeply unsettling. So what happens to Jonny? He wakes up.
Yeah, he's back in the real facility. Knee feels great, mind is clear, but he notices, some trace residue of that neurogel still on his arm. A little reminder.
And does he, run screaming, realize he was totally manipulated?
You'd think so. But he goes home to Lisa, and the first thing he says is, I think it's time we talk about that move.
He still wants to go.
Yeah.
Even knowing it was fake, designed to be sold.
Seems like it. The lure of that perfect fantasy, even the ghost of it, was just too strong. The line between the simulation and reality just blurred for him.
Wow. Okay, so here's the thing to chew on, right?
Yeah.
They didn't just build on the land, they built on his mind.
Yeah. And if your perfect, idealized life can be extracted, digitized, and sold off as a premium experience for someone else, is that the peak of innovation, or have you just paid the ultimate price for being, well-informed about your own desires?
A chilling thought to end on. Makes you wonder what data they're really collecting.